Does learning something new scare you? Something called a growth mindset can help you escape that fear. Andrea, what does it mean to have a growth mindset?
If I have a growth mindset, I know and I believe that my skills and abilities can be developed over time. Versus if I have a fixed mindset, I may think that my skills and abilities, it's not something that I can change. Mm-hmm. That's really the fundamental belief about yourself if you can learn and grow.
Mm-hmm. And what are the benefits to having that mindset?
The benefits for myself as a person are there are many benefits. The first one is that I'm always able to learn because I'm not scared of learning something new. Mm-hmm. I'm also more resilient because I don't see challenges and problems as obstacles that I cannot overcome. Mm-hmm. I see them as opportunities to learn. Mm-hmm. I'm also more change resilient because if something new comes my way that I'm not familiar with, it's much easier for me to overcome that as an opportunity again instead of as a big problem.
Right. So, but it's in human nature sort of to be uncomfortable with change and learning. How do people overcome that? What are some skills they can use?
Yeah. So the discomfort is really interesting because what it really comes down to in the brain is if we come across something new that we don't know yet, our brain causes us to fall into what we call a threat response. We become really anxious. We have a big level of discomfort, and that really doesn't help us with learning. As you can imagine, it actually closes us up.
Right.
And so what I can do in that moment, I can remind myself that no, this is not an obstacle that I cannot overcome, but I need to believe that I can at least try to learn this. Organizations do a lot of things to overcome that. They help their people use a different language. For example, they use a lot of, what if I tried that this time? Mm-hmm. Or they say, instead of saying, I don't know this, they would say, I don't know this yet.
I like that. So that's about building a culture within your organization to help people get over the whole idea of being afraid of learning. That's really cool. What are some other things that organizations can do?
We have actually tried to solve that question. You know, this is $100 million question because we wanted to study what organizations do to build a growth mindset culture. Mm-hmm. And we interviewed 20 organizations this summer. Okay. And they do a lot of things. The first thing they usually do is really they want to know about the science behind growth mindset. So they come to us, for example, and learn about what is it about the brain that makes a growth mindset so much more important. Mm-hmm. But then they build a business case. So many of the companies we spoke to say, what does this mean for our business and how can it help us become a better, more successful business? Mm-hmm. So they create a business case. And then they really try to learn and teach their employees have a growth mindset. There are classes they can take, but they also have lots of reminders. Mm-hmm. One of the funniest examples that I came across, really beautiful example, feedback giving and feedback receiving is a really important part of growth mindset, right? If I ask you, what can I do better?
Right.
I need to have a growth mindset in order to listen to you and take in that feedback and use it. So an organization had created wristbands of different colors to say a green wristband means I've asked you for feedback today. A yellow wristband means I have not asked for feedback in the last 3 days. And a red wristband means I've not asked for feedback all week. So that shows and reminds them of each other's ability to ask for feedback and to learn and to show a growth mindset.
Right. People can be so resistant sometimes that it appears sort of like in their posture or in their body language. Mm-hmm. I think what you're pointing out is that just awareness in general of being open-minded can help people change their behaviors.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's particularly important these days when it comes to the new technologies and how they affect our work. Mm-hmm. AI and other technologies that are changing fundamentally of how we think they've done in the past. And coming across that slowly, we all come across it at some point, right? We may not like what we see. We may feel really uncomfortable with it. But understanding my fundamental own belief that it's okay not to know, it's okay not to be perfect, it's okay not to already know all of these things that I think I should know is really the first step towards a growth mindset.
Awesome. When organizations see that it's working, what are some of the behaviors that staff display? What are the characteristics?
One interesting one, I think, between managers and employees who have conversations about their performance and their work, is if something doesn't go, according to plan, if it doesn't go well, a manager with a growth mindset approach would say, okay, so let's take stock, but let's think forward.
Okay.
What will you do differently next time? How could you have overcome that problem? Instead of being stuck on the problem and the failure, they really direct the employee's attention to forward thinking. So what have you learned from this? So these are questions, for example, that any manager, but also peer-to-peers can ask themselves, right? I've already mentioned the different language, the what if. People really respond well to that. If you ask them, well, this may not be possible right now, we may not know that this is possible, but what if? Right? That opens up so many possibilities suddenly.
Right.
We also see that people starting to apply for jobs that they wouldn't have usually applied for. We have examples from organizations where they told us employees found themselves limited by their beliefs they cannot do this job, but then they actually applied for it and showed actually they can do the job. So we see a lot of lateral moves, not always going up, but also sometimes sideways, exploring new possibilities.
Right. They just need to know they can try and get there. They don't have to know all the answers right away.
That's right.
That's very cool. There's like a lot of experimentation with that. I like it.
Yeah.
Very cool. I can't thank you enough for coming to see us today.
My pleasure. It was fun to talk to you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you all.